Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Chris Nur, Chief Digital Officer of Synity, a world leader in enterprise data software, and we're partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers to bring you this series of interviews with thought leaders in data and analytics. Today, I'm really excited to welcome to the podcast Laura Titus, the Chief Data Officer at Nationwide. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. If we could jump right in, Laura, you've had some really interesting career experiences. So you were previously Chief Digital Officer at Wendy's, and back in Q4 of last year, were appointed as Chief Data Officer at Nationwide. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How are those roles similar from a leadership position, and how are they different, given that they're quite different kinds of industries with maybe some similarities too?
No, absolutely. And I'll start by saying most of my career has been in financial services and specifically insurance. You know, Wendy's was an exciting departure because I wanted to get closer to some of that, direct to consumer ability to react real time to data. You get that immediate gratification that you don't always get in insurance and start to learn from the data in those types of experiences. But when I took that role was focused really on building. They were building a digital capability. They were building a brand new data and analytics practice. And then I think it was 3 or 4 months in, the CEO said, "Congratulations, I'm giving you all of restaurant technology."
Nice.
And so the role took a very technical spin right off the bat, which was very exciting because I was not a point of sale expert walking into that situation. So I learned a ton. And I learned a lot about dealing with franchisees and the complexity of a system that, many people don't see when you just think about a fast food restaurant. But it took a very large technical focus to really fix their restaurant technology footprint versus what I thought I was stepping into from a digital and data standpoint, which is really where my heart lies. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it, but that's when the opportunity to get back into the data focus, get back into the industry I know and love and the complexity of the industry. That's where I really loved the role that Jim Fowler has carved out at Nationwide, which is let's embrace and build a focus on enterprise data. And so it was the ability to get back towards that data passion that I have. But again, very thankful for the role I had at Wendy's. I learned a ton, but it was very technical. And it took away from some of the, how can I really reinvigorate the opportunity for data in the business? Whereas at Nationwide, it's we have such a strategic asset in our data. How do we activate it? And so it was really closer to where my passion is. So a lot of learning and a lot of excitement for data in both roles, but this one really gave me that enterprise view of it. As part of technology, but not focused on running all of technology at the same time.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That makes sense. And I just, it's interesting how, as long as I spend doing this, you never really get away from people, process, technology. But sometimes you have kind of a burning fire, and you've got to put out that fire before you can do anything else. And it sounds like that, that sort of went down an interesting route. So picking up on the theme of data being viewed as a strategic asset and your sponsorship within executive management, what's your sense broadly and or within Nationwide of data as an educational space for both senior leaders and mid-management? Because one of my observations is everyone gets the data thing at a simple level, but then you go to start doing the work and, maybe you find you've got a big technology problem, or maybe you find that, middle management sort of is paying lip service, but isn't really aligned with what you want to do. What do you see as some of the challenges, even with that good executive sponsorship of really building a data culture and a data-driven culture in that kind of positive digital sense that seems to drive a lot of your personal excitement about it?
Yeah, so you hit it on the head, I think, in a couple of with your experience. When Kurt stepped in as CEO, he had a vision I very much aligned to. Another reason why I took this position, which was data first. It is our strategic differentiator, and we have to activate it. And so he lit that fire under the entire organization. Now, to your point, you've got varying degrees of what data means to people. Data view it as how I balance my risk, how I balance my business, how I balance, the different types of experiences I'm trying to design. But everybody has a different view of what data means to them. And not different than many other insurance companies, from my experience, data sometimes is viewed as a technology asset. Yep. And so when you think about the if you really want to have it be a strategic asset, you have to start to view it as a living product. And so it has to be connected to the business. And so it has to create different engagement models, and it has to do different ways of working within the organization. And when you get to some of the mid-level management, they start to get that. They understand where the ways of working aren't optimal. And it's not optimal to activate our data, nor to connect it to what the business is focused on. I think when you get to some of those lower levels, you get a lot of incredibly talented people like we have at Nationwide that tend to focus on what's the next new thing.
Yeah.
And so you've got people chasing the next new thing while you are trying to foundationally change the ways of working in the organization. So one of the ways that we've dealt with it at Nationwide is we made about $160 million investment for a 5-year program to upskill all associates on digital and data. So regardless of where you sit, you now have a program called Future of Work, which is you get to pick your courses, but it is to upskill all associates. What that also does is it not only creates the knowledge base outside of a data office or other data teams, it starts to generate energy and excitement for data. So I now have people, the internal applicants for some of my roles are through the roof because people have been educating themselves on data and now see, I want to be a part of that team. I want to be a part of how they're changing the ways we work. And so we started to do that at all levels. So it's not just for lower level, it's mid-management and senior management. And so you're starting for people to start upskilling and thinking differently. People are starting to now see how we need to start working differently. And so it's starting to change the mindsets of senior leaders who might have been organizationally focused historically. They're now getting outcome focused. Everybody's always had the best focus on their business outcomes, but in silos. And data gives us that connective tissue. And that's why I get so excited about it, because you start to share that energy across the entire enterprise. And you really start to see when people talk about one Nationwide, that's actually how we start to act like one Nationwide. And so that, again, you can tell this is a passion point for me, but another reason why I took that role, because they're taking that unique spin on education at all levels, and it's mandatory with that level of investment, but people are starting to educate themselves and get excited about things that are completely outside of their day job. And they're now starting to see when I start putting time on their calendar, what we're going to talk about and how we're going to change the way they do things.
Wow. So I love that. That's brilliant and amazing. And interestingly, I haven't run across another program like that. So it's like you really put cultural and education piece of it. Mm-hmm. How far into the program how many years is that spanning, and how far are you into it, if I could ask?
No, sure. I believe this is the second year. Yeah. But I might need to be corrected on that one because I'm still my three months in here, but I believe this is the second year.